Hey everyone, Joshua Kirk here with you once again, and now it's time for episode 242 of Album of the Day, in which for today's album review, we're going to be reviewing the new album from a Canadian pop-punk, emo, and indie rock band that have been around since about 2013, I believe, and have released a few albums since then, and I've actually reviewed them before in the past. They are the band from Toronto known as PUP, and I'm here to review their third studio album, which was just released this year on April 5th. So on April 5th, 2019, and the album is called Morbid Stuff. And as you can see, I finally got this on vinyl, bought it at Soundgarden, was very happy because this is definitely one of my favorite rock records of the year, and definitely the best pop-punk album I've heard this year. Really like the front cover here. And there's the back. There's 11 songs on this album, and it's over 36 minutes long. And the band actually left their longtime deal with Side One Dummy Records, and actually signed to the punk and metal label Rise Records. And this is also technically released from their own label that PUP came out with called Little Dipper. And of course, I love being a gatefold, and this one's got a pretty good one. Oh yeah, pretty crazy mosh pit going on here. I hope that guy's okay. There's the liner notes as well as the thank yous right there. And the sleeve has all the lyrics as well as these really cool like doodles or drawings going on that go with each and every song. Really dig that. And some of them are like inspired by imagery on the songs. For example, this car thing is inspired by the title track, and we also have a flaming pentagram, which is inspired by the song Bloody Mary, Kate and Ashley. And for sibling rivalry, it could only make sense there'd be a boy and a girl in the drawing. There's side A, and then there's side B. Like this really cool pink and white splatter that's the color of this vinyl. Yeah, and that's the vinyl packaging for Morbid Stuff, the new album by PUP. So now, I've said I've reviewed them in the past, and the album that I did review from them was The Dream Is Over, their last album, which, you know, at the time I did really love the album, but as time passed I kind of saw my love of that album kind of sort of dwindling away a little bit, although there's still a few tracks on that album that I really love, like obviously If This Tour Doesn't Kill You, DVP, My Life Is Over and I Couldn't Be Happier, Familiar Patterns, songs like that are still like jams in my opinion, but I kind of found that, you know, the band still needed to improve on some things, including the mixing of their music, and also anytime they tried to be a little more like dramatic or aggressive, it kind of devolved into just a sort of obnoxious temper tantrum, and also I kind of felt like, you know, some maturity, a little bit of cleaning up sort of needed to happen a little bit for this band to truly come out with the album that could be their magnum opus. And Morbid Stuff is just that. I had total, which makes sense, because I had total faith in this album being great from hearing the teaser tracks for it. Kids and Free at Last being a couple right from hearing Kids for the first time, I am like, yes, PUP is going to come out with the masterpiece for sure. Sure, which they most certainly did. It's definitely an album that it does sort of stay true to what the band is all about, their pop-punk roots as well as their kind of lyrics, which at times can be really hilarious and sort of sarcastic, but this time there's a new sense of darkness, and this album is easily the most harrowing album thematically in PUP's discography. Like the opening track, Morbid Stuff, very much kind of sums up what this album is all about. Catchy anthemic riffs, kick-ass drumming, a kind of shrill vocal performance from frontman Stefan Babcock, and the lyrics, which literally opens up with the verse of, "I was bored, sitting around and thinking all this morbid stuff, like if anyone I've ever slept with is dead, and I got stuck on death and dying and obsessive thoughts that won't let up. It makes me feel like I'm about to throw up," which is definitely a, right away, very strong way lyrically to open this album, and also definitely a fantastic track. Love how hooky the song is, and I also really like that hilarious lyric about being on a tear in the city and high-fiving every shithead on Queen Street. Queen Street. It's definitely it's definitely easily one of the best songs of PUP's career right there. And then following that is the first single, Kids, which opens up with the verse, "Just like the kids, I've been navigating my way through the mind-numbing reality of a godless existence, which at this point in my hollow and vapid life has erased what little ambition I got left, and I've embraced the calamity with a detachment and a passive disinterest, living out the back of my 97 Camry, wondering how the hell I got myself into this." And then it transitions into a hook that will leave you singing along and bobbing your head. This is pretty much one of the reasons why I was excited to hear this album right from hearing this song for the first time. Sometimes when a band drops a lead single, I kind of have to listen to it multiple times to get the full effect, but this one I pretty much got that right away. Right away. And he also does say how Stefan also does talk about how he's had it maxed out and had a feeling that nothing is working and everything's bleeding. Things bleeding. But there's a good self-awareness to these kind of broken apart emotions and this emotional breakdown that he's having, that it definitely is something that could relate to anybody, including myself, who, I've never really dealt with depression before, but I definitely can still kind of relate to some of these sentiments that Stefan Babcock is shouting into the mic. Shouting into the mic. And I also really like how the song sort of sees his significant other kind of questioning, their relationship a little bit because of how sort of messed up of a person he is. And then the track Free at Last. Free at Last, besides being one of the best songs on the album, also has one of the best music videos I've seen in 2019. Basically, a band tweeted the chords as well as the lyrics for the song to fans worldwide, and all those fans sent the band several covers, hundreds of them, and they sort of took that song and rather than just doing punk covers of the song, they sent in folk versions, heavy metal versions, electronic versions of the song, and the result is the band took clips of all those videos and sort of put them in to this very hilarious music video. So definitely check out that video on YouTube. And it also has one of the best choruses on the album, and probably one of the best choruses I've heard in PUP history. Just 'cause you're sad again, it doesn't make you special. It's like so funny and so sarcastic. I love it. Love it. And also a pretty killer guitar solo in the middle too. But then from that point on, things kind of take an even more morbid turn. We have the track "See You at Your Funeral," which is essentially, if you listen to these lyrics, kind of an angry, sort of existentially kind of dreadful breakup song, where this person is trying to find things that'll help him feel alive again, that'll help him sort of see that there are, things with a purpose in life still for him, like eating vegan food or meditation. And also, I really like the verse where he talks about being noticed by his ex in the grocery store aisle, and he sort of wonders how she's doing and stuff like that. But so even though that does show that he's being a little masochistic, and also another pretty hilarious verse is the final one where he talks about how he'll never see this person again, and if he does, it'll be at his funeral, or better yet, the world could blow up and we could watch the televised highlights in hell. Televised hell. Definitely one example of Stefan Babcock's very clever and very clever lyrical delivery. So definitely one of the best tracks on the album. Then following that is my favorite track on the album, the 5-minute Scorpion Hill, which is definitely one of the more ambitious songs on the album, as it's the first time the band has created a 5-minute song, like one that kind of goes through a few phases in its length. But definitely the best song on the album, in my opinion, in that it's got some of the most heartrending lyrics of PUP's entire career. I mean, where, other songs in their career may have had some hilarity as well as some anarchy. This song, there's like no hilarity to be found whatsoever here. And he's sort of talking about how he's sort of talking about the complications that come with changing and growing up, as well as talking about things going wrong at his job too. When he was boarding the commuter train to work, as an employee tells him, as his boss is telling him that there's been cutbacks, and I'm sorry, but you're the first, and if I can't support the two of us, how can I support a third? But the one that really tugged at my heartstrings was when he sort of talks about, his family, his marriage almost falling apart because of what's going on. And sort of talking about his significant other finding a gun buried underneath piles of clothes in his son's room, sort of a sign that he even thought about suicide at one point, and is secretly trying to expose his son to what's going on with him, which is definitely quite heartbreaking. It's the one song on this album where it was one of those rare times where even as I was bobbing my head and singing along, I was also kind of getting a little emotional too. I mean, if you're I mean, if you're done listening to the song and your eyes aren't a little red after listening to it, you clearly, aren't, you clearly don't have that much emotion in you. Then we have the song Bloody Mary, Kate, and Ashley, which is actually the kind of song where, as I've listened to it and kind of paid closer attention to the lyrics, I've actually kind of realized how genuinely terrifying the song is. Where, he sort of talked where the narrator seems to be on a bad acid trip, and, this person in his life who has passed away. This could be a sequel to See You at Your Funeral, like, the girl has died, but, she comes back alive in a zombie-like fashion. Kind of zombie-like fashion, and he's sort of confronting this supernatural spirit, asking it, "Are you real or fake? So, are you real or fake? Are you alive? Am I awake? This must be some kind of mistake. The trick of the eyes or the drugs that I'm taking," as well as pretty clever lyrics about, making a flaming pentagram in his house, too. So, Graham, definitely a very catchy, and also a very catchy song, too. Fantastic hook on this track that will also have you singing along as well. Considering, how kind of dark these lyrics are, I would like to see the band maybe make a music video for this song. It's maybe like a horror film inspired music video, which kind of makes sense. The band has kind of done that before. The Reservoir music video did have a video where literally guitar strings and cymbals were slashing the band to death. But maybe around Halloween they could do a video like that. That'd be really cool. Cool. And then we have a track that's about kind of the constant sort of sparring and sort of pessimistic sort of behavior of siblings, which is the track Sibling Rivalry. Definitely a very clever song about how, when you have siblings, they're bound to just kind of give you shit about a bunch of different things, but still love you all the same. Even though in this case it definitely sounds a little more morbid and kind of focusing on more the negative side of it, but it's totally satisfying to hear Stefan shout out lyrics like, "You've always got me on the hook, and you didn't even notice. Back in the old neighborhood, just running through the motions. You know just how to piss me off, and it tests my patience. You're always up to no good, and I just can't take it." But it also has a hook on here that definitely would please old school Blink-182 or Green Day fans. I mean, listening to these lyrics and the melody, it definitely sounds comparable to something maybe Billy Joe Armstrong could have written for a Green Day album like Nimrod, which did see them going into more melodic territory than Dookie and Insomniac. And then after this, we have the heaviest track on the album, Full Blown Meltdown. And there couldn't have been a better title for this song. Better title for this song. It's definitely the most aggressive song on the entire album. And also, it definitely, lyrically, is basically Stefan having an emotional breakdown. Now, in the past, when the band tried to do something a little more aggressive, a little harder than some of their other stuff, it ultimately slipped through the cracks as something very, grating and obnoxious. But here on this track, this track is way funnier, way more clever. Definitely one of the standout cuts on the album too. I mean, it even feels a little bit like heavy metal, a little bit. So, I'm pretty sure when the Rise Records people heard this song, they're probably like, yeah, they probably were, banging their heads along to it. And it's just oh so satisfying to listen to Stefan Babcock shout into the mic. I'm just surprised the world isn't sick of grown men whining like children. I felt that, dude. Dude, and also sort of saying how you shouldn't take it so seriously. It's just music after all. And half the crap I say is just things are stolen from the bathroom walls of shitty venues across America. I mean, if a stand-up comedian could be a punk rock singer, these are probably the kind of lyrics that sort of stand-up guy would sing. And also, it's got a totally kick-ass outro. Like, it's the kind of thing that I hope will inspire fans to create some pretty insane, nutso mosh pits at PUP shows. The song "Bare Hands" is kind of a song about how he's sort of all of this stuff going on in his life is just so much for him to take in that he just ends up staring at his hands, and it's the most entertaining thing for him. It's an entertaining thing for him now. He's sort of seeing things. The Earth is turning, and things starting to swim in the focus as weeks pass. Another fantastic chorus on here, just like with majority of the songs here. And he sort of feels that sinking feeling creeping in multiple times to the point of kind of sort of becoming something that he's sort of okay with now. This is a very strong record from front to back. If there are a couple of moments here that I think could have gone better, the song "Closure," while a pretty good song overall, I do think melody-wise it's not quite as strong, and also it does have some kind of eye-roller kind of cliches in its lyrics, like I don't need you to feel fine. I don't need you to come back. And also, it kind of the abrupt ending of the song is also quite awkward. But the one track on here where the band especially slips up is on the song "City" that closes the record. This sort of has one thing in common with the closer off of Idol's debut album, "Brutalism." So this song and "Slow Savage" both close out albums that are full of raging and kind of energetic punk, sort of closing it out with something more spacey and atmospheric, but it didn't really work out that well. Well, that's sort of how I feel about the song "City." It sort of is the band attempting to do something a little more in the vein of like American football, like some of that more atmospheric emo rock. But Stefan's vocal performance on this thing just feels very plain, and also feels very plain, and also the instruments don't really have as much character as they do for much of the other tracks on the album, and also the outro, the heavier outro is just like very badly mixed. I can barely hear Stefan's shouted vocal over that. So definitely a pretty disappointing way to end this otherwise amazing album. But other than that, Morbid stuff is chock full of jams. Fantastic, catchy riffs, hooks that will leave you shouting along for sure, lyrics that will definitely tug at your heartstrings and also make you laugh hysterically at other points, and the production on this thing even, I will say, is the best produced PUP album yet. That was kind of another shortcoming that was pretty apparent on their last two albums was that the mixing was kind of was a little too rough in my opinion, but here now that they've cleaned things up a little bit, it actually comes off as a very well-produced album. So I'm definitely going to give Morbid Stuff a strong 8 out of 10. Check this album out. This album out. If you want a punk record with plenty of hooks, hilarity, and morbid stuff, as the title suggests, definitely go for this. Go no further than this album. And I'll see you for episode 243.